All right, so should we start? I believe we will start now. So in the last live on Saturday, we talked about the vision of the bosons, what we're trying to do over here, and we talked about the problems in the education system and some very specific problems that we're trying to counter. So we'll go over the thing once again. But before we move on to that part, one thing that a lot of people have issues with is our Discord server. We are we have chosen Discord as our platform of choice to connect with all the people to form this community. So a lot of people have been expressing issues with that because Discord is not as popular a platform. People would have preferred, a group over WhatsApp or Telegram or something like that, which is more popular and arguably easier to use. So, and then people also have this idea that Discord is hard to use. So we'll be actually busting that myth today over here, and we'll try to explain why we have to use Discord, and there is not much of an option that we are having. So here are certain pointers about the thing. You have all been, a part of some online group at some point. So, you know, you would have felt that these kind of platforms are just designed for casual chatting and not to be used as a serious community platform. You must have experienced things like those given on your screen right now. We have member limits on most platforms, but Discord has absolutely no member limit. I mean, there are Discord servers running at the moment with hundreds of thousands of people. You get only one inbox, a single inbox in regular popular platforms, whereas Discord lets you create as many inbox as you want on the same group. We call these channels. Next is, the support for audio visual conference or screen sharing is very limited and maybe zero in a lot of these platforms, whereas in Discord, it's just as simple as changing channels on a TV. You can change into, audio visual communication. It could be a conference, voice conference, it could be a video conference, or you can even share your screen. We have extendability. Now, most of these platforms are, just regular groups, whereas Discord lets you add in bots, which are programs, you know, that lets you increase the capability of what you can do on the group. For example, we have a bot on our Discord server which scans every message sent into the server to read LaTeX scripts, and if any message has a LaTeX script, it renders it in the LaTeX form. That's just one of the examples how bots can, you know, help building a community. Next is moderation. Now, in a regular WhatsApp group, you cannot really moderate people. Telegram has some moderation tools, but still not good enough if you have thousands of members, hundreds of thousands of members, which we are looking forward to. Whereas in Discord, you can have amazing moderation features. Like in our server, we have set up certain bots, with the help of which we can, you know, like no one has to interfere. The bot scans every message sent into the server, and if any message contains a piece of text that is not allowed, the things that should not be sent into a public server, if any of this kind of text is found in any of the messages, the message gets deleted and the sender is warned. And the system also keeps a track of this kind of violations. And above a certain number of violations, the sender will be muted in the server for a fixed period of time. And if even after he is unmuted, he continues doing the same thing, he will be kicked from the server. This all happens automatically. So we have such amazing moderation tools on Discord, which we do not get anywhere else. Now, in regular platforms like WhatsApp and Telegram, you cannot enforce rules and guidelines for the members of the community, whereas Discord lets you do that. Like in our Discord server, you can only join the community and you can only send in messages after you have agreed to certain rules and guidelines. In regular platforms, you do not get a lot of notification control, whereas Discord lets you have notification control for each channel, which is each inbox in the same group. There are three available notification settings: all messages, no messages, and only mentions. So mentions can be used smartly to, you know, add some priority to your messages. Now this leads us to the addressability issue. You see, in a regular group, it's hard to address a specific group of people. For example, you are a school group and you want to mention everyone who is on the school sports team. So you would have to mention every person individually. Whereas in Discord, you use a certain thing called roles and you mention all of them in one mention, in one single mention. So that adds feasibility to the whole thing. We have access control. You see, in WhatsApp, you cannot have certain parts of the group accessible to only a certain subgroup. Let's say you cannot send a messages in a group which is only accessible to the admins and moderators of the group. Whereas in Discord, you can do that very easily. You just have to create a separate channel where only moderators and admins are allowed, and you can do that. Next up is automation. You see, even to do the most regular things in a regular platforms, you would have to do it manually, whereas in Discord, if you can program something, you can program bots to do that, and you can add the bots to do those things automatically. So it makes it very obvious why we have to use Discord, and there is no other platform that we can actually use. Now, about the myth that Discord is hard to use, well, no, it's not hard to use. It's just as easy as anything else. Discord has a video on YouTube about how to use it, like their official user manual. And in our server, we have a channel dedicated to it. We have all the pointers. It's a complete guide, and anyway, the community is very helpful. People realize that Discord is something that is not very popular, so a lot of people do not understand how to use it. So people are always willing to help. You just need to take the first step and come in. Now let me take you through this in one quick run. First of all, the groups on Discord are called servers. Next, the idea of channels. You see, the various inbox to specify different kinds of messages, and to sort topics of discussion are called channels. There are two kinds of channels: text channels and voice channels. Text channels are used for text messages, whereas voice channels are used for voice messages as well as messages or voice messages. I mean, not just voice messages, it's more like a walkie-talkie line or a radio stream. You just tune in and you're connected to all the people who are tuned in with the same channel at the moment, and you can talk over voice. You can also switch to video conferencing, and you can also share your screen all in the same voice channels. Now, I'll run you through my Discord server in one quick second so that it helps you. So this is our server over here, as you can see. Now, what happens is when you join our server, you find yourself in the code of conduct channel and you see this when you join our server. And as it reads over here, if you have just joined the server and you can't figure out what to do next and see that you can't post anything anywhere, you have skipped reading important information. Go read newbie village, only required if you're new to Discord. So we try and head over to newbie village and see over here we have a complete guide on how to use Discord, as you can see. And this is in fact the guide that I'm reading out right now. So this is that. Now, in addition to that, I will go back to code of conduct. After you have read this, this is the last message. So go read newbie village, only required if you're new to Discord. And when you have done that, you have to go to code of conduct. So you just tap here and you go to code of conduct again. So this is where you were when you joined the server. Now, this page from top, it has instructions on how you can be able to post. So you will find yourself that you're not able to post anything on the server. What that means is you have to read this page properly. So you come over here and you see, if you're new to Discord, you go to newbie village, tap on the blue text just here and read everything, understand it, then come back here. This is code of conduct and read below. Rules and guidelines and community standards. So the rules are very simple. Until you have read through this and understood this, you will not be able to post anything on the server except in help and FAQ. This channel help and FAQ is open to everyone. You do not need to read the rules and verify your membership. You can post here and get your confusions cleared. Now, the official language of the server is English. Try to keep your messages in any other language to a minimum. At the moment, we are trying to sort this out as well. Do not spam, do not DM or send private messages to other members without permission. Do not post links to malicious sites or invites to other servers. Do not swear and avoid controversial topics including sexuality, religion, politics, nationality, ethnicity, and such. Do not tease or harass or fight. To report someone, use the command dash report space the username space a reason optionally. Read the channel topics. Keep an eye on notice board. Notice board is a channel which is where we post important announcements. So keep an eye on that. Ensure that you are in the right channel to post what you are posting. So this has to do with topics. Now channel topics are, you can read the channel topics over here at the top if you are using it from a desktop, and if you're using it from a phone, I'll explain how to do that in a moment. So read the channel topics and send appropriate messages to appropriate channels. Do not, like you would understand that we have different channels dedicated to uh, different subjects in physics. So we would expect you to appreciate this. We would really hate someone sending quantum mechanics topics and trying to discuss them in a channel dedicated for electrodynamics. That is kind of hard for everyone. So please do not do that. And if you have to, write in commands to bots, use the appropriate channel, which is uh, over here, bots at your service. And in here you have Bebop basics. This is where you are supposed to be writing bot commands. Some commands need to be written exactly where you want the outcome to be. So that's an exception, of course. Now, apart from that, we also have certain other rules. These are simpler ones. Do not post problems and hope to find solutions. Discussions on problems is allowed, however. So this is more to say like this is not easy to use encyclopedia or something like that. This is a community that we are building, so please be appreciative of the fact. The next is very obvious. Please thank people. If someone does something that helps you, please thank them. You can simply write a message that says thanks and the username, and that will thank the person. And there's a system in our server which keeps a track of how often someone is being thanked. That kind of helps us appreciate worthy members. And you can also thank someone, which is the same as giving reputation points, by the syntax dash plus username and a number between 1 to 10. That many reputation points you would be giving the person. And we also have dash minus user name and the number between 1 to 10. You would be taking away reputation points like this. This is unthanking someone maybe. And the decision of strong nuclear force, which is me basically the creator of the server. So I have the ultimate say if there is a controversy. If there is a controversy, uh, sorry. And after you have read the details, this is where it clearly says if you have read all the rules and guidelines and agree to follow the community standards, add your reaction below. This will let you access the server. So you just have to tap here, which registers your reaction and gives you the permission to message anywhere in the server. And this is where you can register your experience with physics. If you're an undergraduate, you tap here. If you're a graduate, you tap here. And if you're a researcher, you tap here. And here are certain other channels which are very helpful if you are interested. Help FAQ is a channel that you might really want to be using if you get stuck anywhere. There is a channel called Server Map, which is a map of the entire server. I'll show you just now. So as you can see, this is just a map of the server. This is what the server looks like. All these are the channels we have, and you tap anywhere on any channel name and you would be going to that channel instantly. So I'll go back to code of conduct at the moment. And we have bot commands, which is a list of the commands available for bots. This is not complete yet, but we are trying to complete it bit by bit. Now, the third, okay, so if you're using a phone for using Discord, mostly you would see this window, the chat window, and this is hidden by this icon. And on this end, you would see a menu icon, which is three lines, three horizontal lines. So when you tap on this one, you see this thing coming up, and when you tap on this icon on this corner of your phone screen, you would be seeing this thing coming up. And the topics are at the top of this list over here. You can try using it on your phone, it's extremely easy. Now, this is a list of members. Okay, and members are okay. I guess I got disconnected for a moment. I'll start back. Sorry for that. So this over here is the channel list. So this is what you can use to go to any channel you wish. And apart from that, we have another thing, which is you can, you know, collapse and expand the categories to show and hide the channels in that category. So you can expand all the categories to make the make this list look something like this, which is quite a long list. So it is recommended you use this collapse and expand feature smartly. Something like this. It's just this easy. There are quite a few channels. It might be hard for you at the moment, so make good use of this server map, and with time you'll get used to this. Okay. Now that is one interesting thing is you can use the search thing to search messages based on the user that send it or the mention of a user in the message, or messages that carry some link or some file or some embedding. You can also sort the search by date, or you can also sort the search results by the channel the message was sent to. So this is a very handy search feature over here that lets you search across the entire server from anywhere. This pin button over here is to have a look at the pinned messages in the channel. Every channel can have its own separate pinned message list. For example, we could try this. This one is empty as well. Okay, interesting. Must be somewhere something. Let me find it for you. Okay, this one will have certain pinned messages, I guess. Okay, here it is. So pinned messages can be found here like this, which are just messages that need specific interest. Now, let me talk a little about the roles. So, if you tap on any person's profile, you would see the list of the roles they have. Now, these roles can carry various functions. Sometimes these roles are just for show. Sometimes these are given as rewards for certain accomplishments in the server, and sometimes the roles are given to sort members into subgroups, which makes it easier to manage the server and to reach out to specific subgroups of people. And sometimes roles carry important purpose, like giving you certain permissions to do certain tasks in the server. Like and, a certain role will let you send messages to the server, and if you do not have that role, you will not be able to send messages to the server. And similarly, you can restrict channels based on rules. Like you could have a certain channel, let's say this notice board. So if until unless you have a certain role, you cannot send messages to this server. I mean this channel specifically. So that lets you, you know, control the accessibility of the community. Now, let me talk a little about some interesting things. So, if you want to mention someone in one of the messages, uh, you clearly just have to go type at the rate, and you could start typing the name, and a list would come in with the member names, and you can just tap on any name to mention them, and you can then type in the messages and send it, and this will give them a prioritized notification. So this is a very interesting feature if you really want someone to be notified that you have tried to talk to them. And similarly, you can create channel mentions, which is like a link to the channel. I would give you an example. So you see, this is the channel name that matches the requirement. So you tap on the name, and you create a channel link, which means anyone who taps on this mentioned channel link will be sent to that channel. Give you an I'll give you a demonstration. So you come here and tap on it, and you will find yourself in code of conduct. We are in this channel. Okay, I'll go back and delete this so that no one gets confused. In addition to mentioning members, you can also mention roles, which sends a mention notification to every member who has that role. For example, we could use a role which says, so you could tap on any of these and you will be mentioning this role. And there are two specific roles that are used to reach out to a lot of people at the rate everyone, which literally sends a notification mention to every member of the server, and another one at here, which sends a mention notification to every member who has access to this channel. So These two are, since these two will be sending a notification to a lot of people, these two are restricted to admins only. You can also reply to messages. This is the reply button, or if you're using a phone, you just have to long press on it, and from the menu you select quote, and you would be replying to this. You can also react to messages. On the phone, you long press on it, and you see this icon, which is the add reaction icon, and then you select the appropriate emoji from the list. So select any emoji, and it would be applied as a reaction like this, and you can tap that again to unreact. Alternatively, so again, a lot of people who joined the server were unable to send messages and find themselves confused. So just like I said, you will be finding yourself in code of conduct channel. So it clearly reads in the, like, the first thing you see is an explanation of the situation. If you have joined the server and you cannot figure out what to do next, go read newbie village and code of conduct, and that will help you. And of course, you can reach out to us. You can use the help FAQ channel as well to get help of any kind. Now, let's get back to the idea of wolf pack. This explains a lot of. Okay, there's one more thing I'd like to show. So these channels that come with a hashtag mark are text channels, and the channels that come with the speaker mark are voice channels. You can connect to them just like this. Okay, so in the last live, we talked about a certain. Okay, so yeah, before we move on, so when you join the server, you see this screen right in front of you. This is the welcome screen, and it has certain informative pieces like, get your membership, and you can't post otherwise, and new to Discord and learn. So then learn your way around in the newbie village, and if you are in a problem, go to help FAQ. If you are getting lost and you cannot find certain channels, go to server map, and if you need help on using bots, go to bot command. So this is basically just a little piece to help everyone get used to the server. And I would emphasize this again: when you join the server, you see the welcome message, and once you are done with the welcome message, sorry, I mean the welcome screen, uh, you will find yourself in code of conduct, and you will not be able to send any messages. You have to read the rules of the server, agree to it, and register your reaction on the message that I showed just a moment back, and then you will be able to send your messages into the server. So please take care of this. Now, the last day in the last live, we talked about the four major pillars of why the education system is failing so pathetically. So we would move on. So these are the four problems we talked about: lack of independence, lack of self-learning, lack of the right end game, and lack of interaction. So you can watch the last live again. It is still there on our channel. So go watch it, and you will be knowing quite what we are talking about. And we talked about a certain thing called Wolfpack, which is a new methodology, a new education system that we are proposing, and we will be running courses based on which uh, that seemingly sorts this mess. So to actually find solutions to the problem, we, took a long detour, and we traveled a bit back in time, you could say. Uh, so we travel back in time, and we go to the Gurukul age, and we see that you know there are certain reasons Gurukul method was so successful. let's talk about those reasons first of all. So in Gurukuls, the education was done in ashrams, which is, a little further away from a regular social life. And that was one key feature because, a distance from the regular social life helps you cultivate habits and discipline and, excuse me, yeah, okay, sorry for that. So yeah, a distance from a regular social life is necessary to cultivate habit and discipline, and it helps prevent the misinfluence from unavoidable social factors like, family, friends, stuff like that. You know, and the major point here is, you know, education is not just learning of facts; it is growing as a person. And the Gurukul policy of being away from the social influence was key to providing a student with the requisite free space to grow as a person as it is. Now the education in the Gurukul was not according to a predetermined curriculum. The mentor or the guru paid specific attention to each member of the class and decided the course to follow. And as a result, the education was tailor-made to suit every individual's needs. So this was possible only due to small class size, and with a class size of 60s or 70s that we see these days, this is really not possible, and that's one big problem. Now, another positive effect due to this was a very friendly and personal interaction with fellow learners and the teacher of every student, and that is quite essential for a holistic growth of the student. Now, the education back in the Gurukul age was not meant as a means of employment or a social standing. Education had only one purpose: education itself, the growth as a person, becoming a better person, quench the thirst of learning. So that's another critical aspect of the Gurukul age. Now, the education was not based on lecture and memorization. Instead, the education was more of a practical application type. You see, you develop day-to-day skills and you actually learn things, you implement them in your life as compared to what we do today. We just learn things on pen and paper. The testing method was not, the public testing methods, generalized testing methods that we use these days. The tests back then were specifically designed for each student to test out what they have learned over the time. And after visiting the Gurukul age, after taking the pointers from there, we move forward in time. We come to the 20th century, and we see a certain thing that is a revolutionary method in learning. We call this Feynman technique. So having tech, uh, so what is this Feynman technique, you might be asking? And let me just tell you, this Feynman person was a Nobel Prize winning physicist, and he was a very brilliant educator. He was an educator, and he was also known as a great explainer because of his amazing skills in explaining things, teaching. And he noticed the problem with the education system, and he in fact tried to do his part in bringing the change uh, by, like, he was a member of the state of California's curriculum commission, and he so basically his job there was to figure out a way to teach maths to students in a better way. So he did this part, but more importantly, why we are talking about him right now is not because of his association with the State of California Curriculum Commission. He laid on the foundation of a learning technique that is called Feynman technique these days, which is based on self-learning for most parts, and it is something very, very effective. It has been tested out, and it is scientifically very effective in learning anything. This is one of the founding stones of our new education system that we are proposing. So Feynman technique is about four basic steps. You see, you identify a topic, you learn about that topic, and then you try to explain it to a 6-year-old child. So now you don't necessarily have to explain it to a 6-year-old child. That is a figurative way of talking. What we mean is you have to, try to explain it in simple language, not using technical terms, because, we realize one thing, that people usually use scientific terms when they do not know how to explain things any better. People hide behind the scientific terms. So that's something that we would really want to avoid. Now, next we have reviewing the gaps in the knowledge. So when you explain it to a 6-year-old child, someone who knows nothing, and you cannot use technical terms, you are definitely going to find a lot of places where you cannot explain things. So these are the gaps in your knowledge or your understanding. So you take a note of these, and then you go back and learn about these things better, and then you just repeat the process. You learn better, and you try to explain this thing again. You find new mistakes. You just keep doing this, piece by piece, and you just get better and better understanding of the situation. Okay, so is isn't so much about how to learn something, it is about how to approach something that you want to learn about. The key idea is gamification. Like in games, you are not expected to beat the final boss right off the bat. Instead, you work your way through in easy, simple steps, and these are called quests, often getting rewards for completing each one. And before you know that, the final boss, which was untouchable before, is easy to beat now. The same goes for learning something. As long as oh, sorry about that. So yeah, so the boss that you could not even touch when you begin the game will be accessible, and I mean will be something you actually do beat in games after you have completed the certain quests. So this is how you take learning as well. You do not expect to learn everything right off the bat. You break the whole thing down into pieces or quests. So these little quests actually give you topics to learn for the Feynman technique. So basically, you put this together, and that blends quite easily. So we take all of these, we put it in a mixer, and we make a nice milkshake out of it, and what we get is something we call a wolf pack, which is our homebrew system of learning, a new education method, so to speak. So let's try and talk about how this works. Now, okay, before we move on, I would like to show you the test results. Like we did some test runs on this Wolfpack thing on our server, and here are the feedback that we have from the people who participated in the test runs. Uh, so as you can see here, these are the feedbacks we received from people who participated in our test runs. I'll stop for a moment so that you can read it properly. Right, so the test runs that we conducted were in two courses. One was to learn LaTeX, and the second was to learn the basics of quantum computing. Now we'll move on to what we were doing. Yeah. So now I'll explain how the wolf pack works. So it can be broken down into five simple steps. As you can see, we announce a course, and the people who are interested register for the course. And from the people who have registered, we form groups of learners. And now the group size is, we try and keep the group size to be, something around 10 per group or something like that. And then the course actually starts. And after this point, we from the Bosons are not really going to interfere with how the group learns. Now every group is assigned an alpha. Yes, that's something I missed. Sorry. So every group is assigned an alpha. Now alpha is just like the alpha of a wolf pack, the leader of the pack, the leader of the group of learners. Now, how the group learns. So yeah, after the group is formed and after the course actually starts, these are the steps that the group follows. So first of all, the group decides a place and a time and a pace. And by pace, I mean, the number of days per week the group would be working, which is equivalent of the amount of time the group is willing to put in per week. And this is something really, really important because uh, this helps us, you know, make sure that, groups are formed in a way that every member in a group is available to put in a certain amount of time per week so that no one is left behind because they cannot put in uh, a certain amount of time. So after this has been decided, and by time and place, what we mean is the time of the meet. So the group will be meeting every working day. So this is to decide the time of the meets, and by place, what we mean is the platform the group would be using. You could be using Discord, you could be using something else, whichever the group likes, really. The group can also meet physically if everyone in the group is in a close physical proximity and they can meet together. That would be a real nice plus. So when the group meets for the first time, I mean, after the introductions and stuffs are done, they decide on basically with every course there comes a roadmap. The roadmap is the list of topics that will be followed. So The group takes up the first topic, does the research on it. Now this research is done independently by every member of the group. The group takes up a topic, every member goes off and does a research on this topic. And what I mean by research is they just learn about the topic by themselves. Now, they are not completely left by themselves. I mean, if you do not know anything about a certain thing, learning the thing yourself becomes a bit hard. So, we also offer recommended materials, the materials where someone can start learning. And these recommended materials are available free of cost in most cases. So you go read the recommended material, you explore some more, and when you have like a proper understanding of the topic, you make a report on what you have learned, the difficulties you have experienced, and resources that you have used to learn about the topic. Now every so yeah, you create this report and discuss. So sorry, you create this report and you submit it to the place mutually decided with the entire group, so that every member of the group can access the reports of each member. Now you also have to read the report submitted by every other member of the group, and everyone has to do this because this thing essentially gives you an understanding of how other people have went about learning that thing, what other people have learned. This helps you find your own mistakes, rectify it, and you know it gives you a gauge of how people are going about learning a certain thing. So yeah, after this point, when the group meets the next time, you discuss about the topic and about what you have learned with every group members. So when you read someone's reports, you might find some mistakes. You can discuss about that. You might not be able to understand something from someone else's reports. You can discuss about that. You can discuss about anything related to the subject in general, or anything you had a confusion with anyway. So with this discussion, there might be a need to amend the reports that have been submitted. So that is one thing, and the group also takes up a new topic for the next meet. So this repeats by itself, and then you also amend your reports and submit it before the next meet. So this kind of loops in. Now, in addition to that, every report needs to have a certain thing called the growth tracking sheet, which is basically a page in the report with three headings. One is the topics that you have learned, the topics that you are working on, and the topics that you do not know about. So when you start a course, you might really find that you do not have anything to write in any of these. It is completely empty, which is totally okay and normal. But as the course progresses, you will find that you are actually adding topics bit by bit, and this way you can keep a nice track on what you have learned yourself. So this is very essential. Now, as you go, you are also expected to compile the reports that you have like completely made properly, which need no more amendments. You compile these together piece by piece, and by the course ends, it would become more or less like a book. So yeah, these are the feedbacks once again. Now, before we move on with more details, here is a certain thing. Why the name Wolfpack? Because as you see, this whole thing is kind of inspired from wolf packs. These leaders, the alpha for the pack is a leader, but he doesn't do everything, right? He guides the other wolves of the pack to do their part of the rules, and thus the pack as a whole moves ahead. In addition to this, we have some more pointers, which is one working day every week will be uh, left free and no new topic will be discussed. The meet will be held if, like just like normal, just like every other day, but on that day we will be not taking new topics because that day is left as a buffer period. Someone in the group might be lagging behind, so they get this time to catch up to the rest of the group. Someone might want to explore a bit more, so that someone might want to review what they have learned the entire week. So this day is left for that. And by the end of the course, we have two course goals. First is to compile the reports. As you can see over here, you have to compile the reports as you go, so by the time you end, you have a book on the topic that you have learned about. So that is our first course goal. Now for the second course goal, uh, we can be taking up actual research topics, or actual group projects where you actually need to apply what you have learned. So this helps the students understand what they have learned for real. Now, one essential thing of this whole thing is this methodology that we are talking about is not very fixed or restricted. Every group can add slight changes to this to suit their needs. And, if some group happens to come across a certain change that is very, very relevant to the whole idea, we might actually try to make it an official inv- we can actually include this in the standard methodology as well. So what we are trying to imply here is this method is not something that is rigid like the education system. This method is flexible. Everyone has a say in this. You have a say, like every learner has a say in this, based on, like, every learner has a say in this on the group, and every group has a say in the bigger picture. So basically over the time this thing will keep changing. So for example, some point, some years later, we come across a certain piece of technology that helps us improve this learning a bit more. We will be using that. Like, the groups have the freedom to use that, and if it is really that relevant, it will actually become the standard of learning. So what I'm trying to imply here is we are trying to create a system which is flexible and not rigid like the system that we find ourselves in at the moment. And most importantly, the responsibility for this evolution of the system is not, how do I say, is not centralized, or someone who is not deemed the authority for this evolution. Instead, every learner has a say in making this evolution happen. Now, let's take a look at how this method forms targeted solutions to the problems that we talked about in the first place. So the four problems that we talked about in the first place were these: independence, self-learning, endgame, and interaction. So let's take a look at this. So this method is independent because, you see, once a group is formed, we, the founders of, or the people who are authorized in the bosons to bring out changes or enforce certain rules or guidelines, will not be interfering with how the group progresses about learning. The group is independent. That's one level of independence, and on a secondary level, every learner is independent in the sense that there is no fixed curriculum that we are following, and there is no fixed resource that we are going to follow. So every learner is free to learn their way. Also, the next is self-learning. So as you see, the whole thing is based on self-learning. So what one essential thing is that, you know whereas the conventional education system doesn't encourage self-learning, what happens is students do not learn how to learn, and students do not learn how to think. Whereas in this, over here, students will actually have to learn things themselves, so that always makes them think actively. So that is an essential. Now about the end game. Well, the end game of this whole method is not to, learn something, mug something up so that you can qualify some exams. No, the end game is to learn. You have to learn things. That's the whole point. And about interaction, well, essentially, this whole thing is based on interaction. Whereas in the conventional system, the students do not interact positively among themselves, and there is not a lot of interaction between the students and the teachers. This whole thing is based on interaction among the students, because you are learning from everyone around you, so you have to interact with them in one way or the other. Now, this all might sound a bit too complex, but uh, this is actually really simple. Once you understand, like I'll try to summarize this in quickly. Group. So we announce a course. If you're interested, you register. We form a group of 10 or something like that, and then you decide a pace and you meet. Like the group holds a meeting. We take up a topic. You go around, research for the topic, make a report. You submit it, read other people's reports, and you go on, and this process basically repeats. Meanwhile, you fix your reports that you have done previously and compile it into books. That's basically all. And at the end of the course, we might also have certain application based group projects and stuffs like that. So this is the whole idea of Wolfpack. And uh, if you have any questions now, I would be taking it in the comment section, but I'll be waiting for 2 or 3 minutes. If you have any questions, I'll be taking it up. And if you do not, then this is the end of the live for the moment. And of course, you can contact us later in the comments, or you can reach out to us on our social media handles or our Discord server. We'll be very glad to answer any queries that you have. So I don't think there are any questions at the moment. So I'll stop here, I guess.